Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a former San Diego Tea Party spokesman is free after a woman recants her claim that he raped her.
And San Diego researchers are warning parents against sleeping with their babies. A new study shows sharing a bed puts infants at risk for SIDS.
KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Joanne Ferrian.
And I'm Dwayne Brown.
Today, prosecutors drop rape charges against a former San Diego Tea Party spokesman after his accuser recanted her story. Michael Kobelnicki was freed 10 days after being arrested and charged with assaulting a woman on Fiesta Island. But on Monday, the woman said Kobelnicki wasn't the man who attacked her. Since then, police say they've gotten new information clearing him. And yesterday, she recanted her story. Police say there are no plans to charge the woman with filing a false report. In the meantime, Kobelnicki says he's lost his job.
An embattled Camp Pendleton Marine is getting support from a San Diego congressman. Republican Duncan Hunter says Sergeant Gary Stein should not be dismissed from the Corps for his Facebook postings criticizing President Obama. Stein is accused of violating military rules against political speech. Hunter is a Marine veteran. He told the Marine Corps Times every single Marine in his civilian clothes has said something political, and he says if the Marines dismissed all of them, you'll lose about 70% of your force. Stein is scheduled for a dismissal hearing next week.
A new poll says Nathan Fletcher's decision to drop out of the Republican Party gained him some support in the race for San Diego mayor. Survey USA did the poll for our media partner, KGTV. 12% of those polled said they switched their support from another candidate to Fletcher after the assemblyman announced he was becoming an independent. Another 4% said they won't support Fletcher now because of the switch.
The developers of the proposed Fat City Lofts may have a plan B for their project. Their original proposal for a condo complex got turned down because of a conflict with solar turbines. It's across the street from the site. Now the developers tell UT San Diego they're looking at building a hotel instead.
San Diego's waterfront got a touch of pink today. The Port of San Diego dedicated 15 cherry trees near the USS Midway Museum. They're a gift from the Consulate General of Japan in Los Angeles. Today's ceremony celebrated the 100th anniversary of the first gift of cherry trees from Japan to the United States.
A juvenile detention center in Otay Mesa has started a gardening program to help some of its detainees earn certificates and training in various fields. I spoke with one young man who spent most of his teenage years incarcerated.
Right here is different, we got the plants and, it smells better, right here. Fresher air.
Jesse Ocampo has been at the East Mesa Juvenile Detention Center since July.
I was doing bad. I was doing drugs and hanging out with my homies and everything, And I just ended up getting pulled over and locked up again.
Ocampo has been in and out of the juvenile system since he was 13 years old, but says the gardening program has him thinking differently about the direction of his life.
Like my life could be a tree. If I'm feeding it bad soil, then it's not going to grow. But if I put the right things in it, I can grow as big as I want, and harvest as many things as I can.
We put faith in the young guys and let them do things.
Bill Moberly is the instructor of the program.
I think when people accomplish things, it builds their confidence.
This is the end of the road for many of the teens here. Donovan State Prison, right up the road, is a constant reminder. Probation supervisor Tyra Miles says the program helps the kids release the stress from being locked up and also prepares them for the future.
We've had a couple chefs come out and they've talked to them about the career in the restaurant business and being a chef. We've had a farmer come out who talked to them about how he was an entrepreneur and started his program.
Jesse Ocampo hopes to get a fresh start when he's released next month, just ahead of his 19th birthday.
I haven't been out for a lot of my birthdays, but I'll be out for this one, so I'm pretty excited.
In addition to gardening, the juvenile detainees learn how to cook what they grow. They also attend classes and learn job training skills. Red tape and gnats were on the agenda recently at a county board of supervisors meeting. Joanne speaks with the head of the board at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
The San Diego County Supervisors voted on two controversial issues yesterday. The board gave initial approval to reduce the number of gnats generated at two large organic farms in South Escondido and the East County community of Jacumba. But the board voted against a plan that would have done away with local planning groups. Joining me is Supervisor Ron Roberts. He is the chair of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be with you.
Let's talk about these planning committees. Now, these are really citizen-based groups, aren't they?
Yeah, they're people that live in the communities. They're all different in size, and to some extent, some of them have operated differently. But they're there to provide advice on projects that are being done in their communities, and also to serve as a way to get information out to the community. So there's a number of functions, but their primary function is to review development proposals and other things affecting their communities.
So the issue really was, were these groups stalling the process in some way? And what were your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, that was one recommendation out of a very long list. In fact, we didn't finish the meeting until the end of the evening last night. And it was, at least there were some who felt they were a major part of the delays that we're seeing in projects. When we looked at it, ultimately the board decided unanimously that, well, we made some reforms. We changed some of the rules under which they operate, but we left them intact. And among the things we're going to do is train the members better. Okay, before you're seated, there's some things that you need to learn about, not only about planning, but of the laws that govern. And we also took away, if a planning member should do something that's illegal, they will not be indemnified.
Protected by the county.
They're not going to be protected by the county in the future. So what we really want to do is say, let's raise the professionalism a little bit. I think that will really go a long ways towards solving some of the problems that we've seen.
So when we talk about developments too, primarily we're talking about some new subdivisions, commercial development, and I think yesterday you talked about some of these projects taking as long as 10 years.
The unfortunate truth is a large number of projects have taken longer than 10 years. And there's nothing in that for us as residents of San Diego. You know, whether we approve it or not, let's get to the decision. What we're doing is we're making housing more expensive, we're making commercial developments more expensive, and even nonprofits. You know, there are some very worthwhile groups. In fact, we had a long hearing on another, a nonprofit organization that takes care of people with brain injuries, and the community was strongly opposed to that. The board did approve it.
So going forward, it's not just about keeping these community groups, changing the rules, but you've got a number of other things you're going to do to try to streamline this process. Yeah. What are they?
Well, first of all, I think the most significant thing, far and above anything else, was taking the planning department in its conventional role in merging it, in a sense, for development purposes, with bring the legal people into it, bring the public works people in, bring everybody into one place. Have it as a department so that people come in there, they get a comprehensive review, and you're not doing it piecemeal. So you'll get, here's a checklist. We've looked at it from all of these angles. Here's what you have to do if you're going to process these plans.
I want to switch topics now to gnats. Now, these are pesky little bugs. We've heard a lot about them. They actually get into people's eyes, and they've been associated with the organic farms in the area. What did the board decide to do last night?
Well, the board, first of all, we've been working with the organic farms, and I think there's still a hope that there is a solution where the neighbors and the farms can coexist. But we had problems years ago with flies from chicken ranches, and we had to change the way that the chicken ranches operated. I think what you're seeing here, we're not asking the organic farms to go out of business. We're not asking to spray anything. But
not yet. Eventually, not yet. Okay.
But what we're hopeful of, they've got to work. They've got to find us. It's not a tolerable situation, and I think the board clearly signaled start the preparation for an ordinance that will change their ability to be able to farm in the way they've been doing if we don't see a solution here.
So for now they're using traps, could lead to pesticides down the road. Thank you so much, Supervisor Ron Roberts, for being here.
You're welcome.
When the housing market collapsed, a lot of projects went by the wayside. Now there's some new life in housing construction, but the projects are looking a little different than originally planned. The story coming up. And a new report on sudden infant death syndrome says babies are still being exposed to too many risk factors. We'll talk with the San Diego researcher who made the findings. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS, the doctor is in for the next 3 hours. Beginning at 8, the conclusion of last season's Doc Martin, as Louisa goes into premature labor, stopping Martin on his way to a new job in London. Then at 9, the wait is over. A new season of Doc Martin begins with Martin's newfound fatherhood. And at 10, Martin asks Louisa to move in and take care of the baby. Will the doc ever get to his new job in London? That's tonight on KPBS.
Coming up on Finding Your Roots, educator Jeffrey Canada and journalist Barbara Walters discover while names may change, family roots do not.
So they make it from Warm Water to Walters.
You just discovered your family's original name.
And it was Canada.
This is just amazing. So I'm Barbara Warm Water. I like Barbara Warm Water.
Finding Your Roots.
Sunday at 8 on KPBS. KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
The master planned community of Otay Ranch in Chula Vista was just halfway done when the housing crisis shut it down. Now, sales are beginning to crawl back up. But KPBS reporter Tom Fudge says the market has changed and the homes and communities people are buying look a little different.
These new homes were built in what the developers of Otay Ranch call Village 2, and Spaniata Ingram has just moved in.
This area is just nice. The schools are good, the neighbors are good. I actually found out I worked with that neighbor. You met Bruce already. He's a great guy. One of my son's soccer teammates, they live right over on the corner.
But the homes being built now in Otay Ranch are different from the ones they built 10 years ago when the home market was booming. Stephen Haas is in charge of planning for Baldwin & Sons, the developer of many homes in Village 2. He says today's new homes are smaller and they're less expensive.
These are single-family homes on individual lots with their own private yards. And I think that is what is very desirable for many families. The American dream is still very alive. It just has been shrunken a little bit.
Lots today are smaller, and Haas says the square footage of the homes he's selling has dropped by about a third compared to the previous decade. The market has forced developers to lower prices but still provide an attractive product. They've tried to do that by using some innovative designs. One example is clustering homes in 6s and 4s.
One of the most characteristic things about these home clusters is they only have one driveway. Why have only one driveway instead of 4 or 6?
A shared driveway means the lots can be smaller. Kent Aden, an executive with Otay Ranch New Homes, says they also have less street frontage, and that means lower costs.
We reduce the amount of street that we have to build for each house, and we can save on construction costs, which means we can offer a lower price home.
But it's not just affordability. The shared driveway gives a home cluster a kind of common courtyard. Remember the cul-de-sac? Suburban developers have largely abandoned them because they were very impractical for moving traffic. But cul-de-sacs created protected streets for kids to play on, and they offered a central square where neighbors would gather. Aden says the shared driveway is the new cul-de-sac.
By doing this, you're creating that cul-de-sac environment without having a cul-de-sac, and it gives a lot of hard surface for kids to play on.
It's something that Ingram can confirm.
My youngest son comes out with his basketball. He can be right here, right inside. Everybody's respectful, so
not worry about anybody speeding up in my driveway.
Neighbor Bruce Bjornson says he often works in his garage, which faces that common courtyard known as the driveway.
I have my garage door open like I might be doing something, and you know, like again, the guys behind me and stuff, they'll come out and walk by, and so we'll just stop and talk for a while, you know.
Urban planners say not having one driveway for every home means home fronts become a more dominant feature on the street. They're also featuring home fronts in Village 2 in a very old-fashioned way, the use of alleyways as a place to store cars and garages in the back. But price remains the dominant factor in any buyer's decision. Ingram and Bjornson bought their homes for between $380,000 and $420,000. Mark Goldman is a business lecturer at San Diego State and a mortgage broker. He says those prices are just a bit higher than the median home price in San Diego County. And that's a good deal because people will pay more for new homes. Why will they?
Why do people buy new cars? You know, I don't mean to respond with a question, but a lot of people just like having that new original bathtub, that new original room, that new home where no one has lived before. People will pay a premium for that.
In its heyday, Otay Ranch was selling about 1,000 homes every year. Even now that sales have picked up a bit, only about 100 a year are being sold. At some point, housing demand will cause home sales to rebound to something more akin to pre-recession levels. But Stephen Haas says the housing bust has caused a fundamental change in home design. The days of the McMansion are behind us. He tells of one San Diego man who moved to Temecula to buy a bigger house.
And I asked him how he liked living up there, and he said he hated the commute. He had a house so large that there were some weeks he did not even go into some of the rooms in his house. Now imagine that we bought homes that we don't even use anymore. Would you buy something and put it in your closet and never wear it or use it? Well, we had a tendency to do that as a society, and now we're becoming more realistic about what our needs are.
Meanwhile, Spaniata Ingram is just happy to be home.
Welcome to my neighborhood.
If the Otay Ranch development is fully built out, it will include 26,000 homes. Losing a child is traumatic for any family, but when a baby dies from SIDS, there are still many unanswered questions. Joanne has more on new research shedding light on risk factors.
The study looked at the records of 568 infant deaths in the county. One of its primary findings is that infants who died of SIDS had multiple risk factors. Joining me to discuss this report is Dr. Henry Krause, pathologist at Rady Children's Hospital, and Kitty Roach, San Diego County SIDS coordinator. Thank you both for being here. Dr. Krause, multiple risks. Now, explain why that's so important in terms of understanding SIDS.
Well, the babies who died of sudden infant death syndrome during this entire study period from 1991 to 2008 averaged about 3.5 risk factors per baby. And I think with past recommendations about safe sleeping, there's been a tendency to sort of focus on one of those factors. For example, to avoid placing a baby on its stomach for sleep. The importance of this study is to show that over this entire study interval, babies are still being exposed to multiple risk factors, and these are additive in their effect. The more risk factors, the higher the risk of sudden infant death syndrome. So we're recommending from this study that caretakers avoid exposing babies to multiple risks simultaneously to minimize their risk of sudden infant death syndrome.
And I want to ask you about some of those risks, but first of all, I heard you earlier explaining also this whole idea of the triple risk hypothesis, that when these things come together, it is sort of the reason why you think that SIDS occurs.
Correct. We believe that for the vast majority of babies, only 5% of them had no risk factors in our study, extrinsic risk factors. But we feel that sudden infant death syndrome is the intersection simultaneously of these three fundamental elements that are occurring in sudden infant death syndrome: the age of development, the things that characterize the development of baby during its intrauterine life, and then factors around its sleep environment that are intrinsically unsafe.
So let's talk a little bit about that then, Kitty. We know that, first of all, the big recommendation is always to put your baby on his or her back.
Back to sleep.
Now, there's a second risk, a fairly common one that the study found about sharing a bed. Can you tell me a little more about that?
The studies indicate that that is a very big risk factor, that when adults share a bed with an infant, the infants can become overheated. There's a risk for overlay. What we recommend is that a baby sleep in the same room on a separate sleep surface that's firm, covered, babies only in a sleep sack or something like that, for easy access for breastfeeding next to the mother's bed. You can bring the baby to bed to breastfeed and then put the baby back in his or her own surface. The adult beds are often too soft. They have blankets, they have pillows, they have a lot of risk in terms of overheating the baby or potential for overlay.
Dr. Krause, was your study able to identify how often sleeping, co-sleeping, this played a role in SIDS? What percentage?
Yes. In the early part of the study, only about 20% of the babies were bed sharing. By the end of the study, that incidence had doubled. So we're very concerned about the incidence of prone sleep or tummy sleeping went down dramatically from 85 to 30%. But at the same time, bed sharing and baby sleeping on an adult bed, both those factors doubled in incidence. And so, again, the importance of emphasizing, of trying to avoid all of these risk factors that are under the control of the caretaker.
So, Kitty, when you go out and you meet with families, do you find, in terms of co-sleeping, that seems to be a fairly, I wouldn't say common, but popular thing now. We hear a lot about it. Right. Do you find that families know that this is a risk?
Some do. We actually, to use the term bed sharing and co-sleeping, meaning in the same room, room sharing, that they do know that it's a risk, but especially with a new baby, that's, the biggest risk for SIDS is 2 to 4 months. But it's convenient to breastfeed. There may be a family that doesn't have access to buy a crib, where bed sharing is a cultural kind of moray, and those are the reasons. Or they think it leads to bonding, more bonding. They have a lot of reasons.
The younger the baby, the greater the risk of bed sharing. And we strongly advocate breastfeeding the baby, unless there's some medical contraindication to it. But the baby could be could be breastfed, but then kept on a separate sleep surface afterwards. So we don't want families to think that we're not supportive or recommending breastfeeding. We're very strongly advocating that, but then sleep separate, have the baby sleep on a separate surface.
We're out of time, but I do want to let the people at home know that there's a lot more information about this study and about SIDS at californiasids.com, also on our website, kppbs.org, a link to your study. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In just a moment, we've got some of your thoughts about this week's Supreme Court arguments over the federal health care law. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next News Hour, we take you to the once secretive and closed nation of Burma as it prepares for parliamentary elections this weekend. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
In the last year, KPBS News has been honored with nearly 3 dozen awards. I'm extremely proud of these honors, and I thank you for your support as we continue to serve our local communities with award-winning news coverage in the years to come.
They're symbols of the British monarchy. Grand buildings that have stood for centuries. Host Fiona Bruce tours the greatest royal places in England, uncovering incredible stories along the way. Secret passageways under Windsor Castle, the bombing of Buckingham Palace, why Queen Victoria relocated this grand marble arch. It's an amazing journey through the Queen's Palaces.
Tour the Queen's Palaces, Monday at 9 on KPBS.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. As we've been reporting throughout the week, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments into the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act. One of the big issues, the individual mandate, which requires all residents to have health insurance. Here are some of your comments. Gretchen Peely from Escondido writes, To me, the salient fact is that sooner or later, we are all going to need health care. The car insurance argument does not hold water because we can choose not to buy a car, but when we need health care, we must go to the doctor or the hospital. The folks who end up in the emergency room with no insurance are freeloading on all of us who pay for our insurance. And another viewer, dubbed a citizen for true fairness, says, I wonder why this mandate, the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which basically indemnifies health care expenses for those without insurance, should not be considered illegal as well by the Supreme Court. Taxpayers and those with medical insurance ultimately pick up the bill for the costs of the uninsured in either higher taxes or higher hospital bills. Is that fair? Well, now that legal arguments have wrapped up, we're going to take a closer look at what's at stake when the court makes its ruling. On Monday, we'll speak with the head of Scripps Health to get his views on the state of health care in the county and his thoughts on the individual mandate. That's on Monday. In the meantime, if you want to comment on this topic, you can join the conversation by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and of course, you can always send me an email, jfarian@kpbs.org. And now let's go back to the news desk where Dwayne has a recap of tonight's top stories.
Former San Diego Tea Party spokesman Mike Kobelnicki is free tonight after prosecutors dropped rape charges against him. The woman who accused him of attacking her on Fiesta Island recanted her story. Now Kobelnicki says he's working to get his job back at San Diego City College. And a new poll says mayoral candidate Nathan Fletcher picked up some support by dropping out of the Republican Party. The poll from our media partner 10 News says he got an 8% increase in support by becoming an independent, but the survey did not compare him to the other mayoral candidates. You can watch and comment on any of the stories you saw tonight on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night. We leave you with a look at the forecast.